Absolutely. So first of all, thank you everybody so much for joining this last session of today's conference. I know it's a lot of effort for some of the people to find time over the weekend to do it. So really appreciate it, and thanks so much. Before we get started, obviously, huge thanks to all the sponsors who made it all possible. And without them, obviously, it would be really difficult for all of us to get together and collaborate and share insights. So today we're going to be talking about how to be visible and successful in a completely virtual world. Um, 1 second. A couple of words about myself before we get into the topic. So my name is Elena Leonova, and I typically say that in my professional life, I have two main passions. One is product management, and another one is e-commerce. Currently, I work for a company called BigCommerce, where I'm extremely lucky to be able to combine both of those things at the same time. If you don't know who BigCommerce are, we are a SaaS-based e-commerce platform headquartered here in Austin. Originally was founded in Australia, so we're really lucky to actually have presence here in Austin, as well as in a couple of other places. And our mission is to power commerce for the merchants around the globe, which obviously right now with COVID became even more important. But our topic today would be not about commerce, but about how to be successful in this completely virtual world. So since COVID happened, we all had to move into a completely virtual world. And some product managers were already working in that environment, but majority of us were not. And for some people, it became really important to understand how to have that product presence in a place where you actually don't see your peers and your colleagues in person. And even when you actually were in the office, for some of us, it was hard even then. So in a completely virtual world, it became even more difficult. So today I want to share a couple of my personal thoughts on this topic, and I would be really interested to hear some of the things that you are doing that maybe help or maybe not. So then we can all learn from this experience and at the end actually become better product managers. So let's dive in. As I was reflecting on this topic back in March when this all started, and all of a sudden overnight we had to move into a completely virtual world. So I was reflecting on this topic and I was thinking, what is that thing that will help us be visible? And we all know that in person environment, the key answer to that question would be that you have to communicate. It sounds really easy, but that's actually what you have to do. If you want to be visible, you have to make sure that people know who you are, and they know that you are that person who has all of those answers and drives the product direction in the right way. But in a completely virtual world, the thing that you actually have to do is now you have to over-communicate. You need to make sure that your voice is being heard even when you're not in person with those people that need to hear you. And most of the time when I say that, the question comes up, so yeah, that's obvious, obviously, like you have to over communicate now, but what are the things that you have to communicate and how to do so? Because most people are afraid that they will look kind of silly when they just all of a sudden go and start talking to everybody, and especially if they don't know what those topics would be. So from my perspective, there are three main steps that you actually have to follow, and they're quite obvious to some extent, but there are some nuances to them. So first, you have to obviously get customer insights, because we all know that as product managers, we are responsible for building the right product. And in order to do so, you have to have your customer insights and customer problems that you have to solve. Based on that, you have to come up with the right solutions. You have to strategize and come up with solutions, how to solve those problems. And lastly, once you've done all of this great work and you actually already have those insights, you have the problems that you want to solve, and you know how you want to solve them, now you need to make sure that all of those ideas are being heard by the right people. So let's dive in. So getting customer insights. Right now, as product managers, we all know that we obviously have to be talking to customers, but it was always important. But in a completely virtual world, and especially right now with everything that happened in the world, you have to be talking to your customers even more. And you have to be looking at those customers and truly asking them the right questions. And what I mean by that, that you have to understand what has changed in those customers' environment. Do they still actually have a need in your product? And what are the needs that they actually have right now? There are a lot of things that maybe have changed for them from their professional life, from their financial situation, maybe in their personal life. And as product managers, it's actually really important for us to make sure that those people that are our customers right now, they still have a need in our product. When you go and ask those right questions, I would say that you kind of need to pretend like you don't have a product roadmap right now, because the chances that things have changed so dramatically are really high. And most of the time, product managers go into those customer conversations and have a tendency to ask a question, kind of validating their existing roadmap. We all know that a good best practice for PMs is to have a roadmap from maybe 3 up to 18 months. So most likely, at least partially, your product roadmap has been created before COVID. And maybe parts of this product roadmap is not relevant anymore, or maybe it's still relevant but not urgent. So you kind of need to pretend like you don't have a product roadmap right now, and actually go and truly discover your customers. And you kind of need to understand what their needs are. And then kind of once you do that, that will give you those specific insights that then can become the base of your of all of this communication that you will be doing next. Most of the time, people think of, oh my God, like, yes, obviously I have to be talking to customers, but this is so much work and I simply don't have enough time to do so. So what should I do? And I typically say that ideally you will start with maybe 10 to 15 interviews, at least that, where you can, I know, as I said, learn their needs and ask those right questions. But also, you need to remember that most likely in your company, you're not working alone. You have your sales teams, you have your marketing teams, customer success teams, and so on. And all of those teams are talking to customers already. So what you actually need to do is take your personal research that you've done and then go and actually talk to those other people within your org to validate whether things that you've heard matches with the things that they've been hearing. You have to be looking for patterns because what you need to understand whether the thing that you've heard is not one kind of a thing. There is actually a pattern there, and it is a systematic problem. As an extra point or bonus that you will get from this is that you actually will become more visible within your company, because now you're actually reaching out to those other teams, trying to understand what are the problems that they are hearing and how can you help them. So this is actually a step where you actually benefit your product research, but at the same time you become more visible within your company, and you are being seen as a person who cares about the voice of customer. I actually would like to share with you a story about the importance of customer research and talking to the customers. So obviously, I've been in product management for such a long time and always knew that you have to be doing customer research and talking to customers to understand their needs. But there is a really small family-owned restaurant, North Austin, that makes delicious meals. And my husband and I like to go there. So we typically, I don't go there maybe a couple of times a week, just because we love that place so much and we love the couple that runs the place. When COVID happened, we realized that all of a sudden we stopped going there for obvious reasons. And then in a couple of weeks, I became worried that that place maybe would not be able to survive, just because if we don't go, probably other people don't go there as well. And so what I did is I actually looked at their website. I know I tried to see if there's an option to order online. I also looked them up on DoorDash and Favor and all of those other apps. And in none of those places they were present. So I became even more worried. And obviously, with me working in e-commerce, I immediately thought that they do need to have an online ordering system. So I convinced my husband one Saturday that we have to drive there, and because we know owners so well, so we just need to talk to them and I don't know, just offer them the solution. So we went there, and we came to the restaurant, sat down with the owner, and we like asked him this question: "How is your business going?" He said that obviously things are not going well. He's struggling a little bit, not that many orders. And I immediately jumped to solutioning. I told him that, look, here is a prototype how your online ordering system can work. And actually, people right now there are discounts. You can actually get the system for free. I just really want your restaurant to be successful. So just take it and use it. And as I said that, I looked at his face and um, kind of he didn't know what to say. He looked really puzzled, and he was kind of like not even knowing kind of where to start. After a long conversation, what it ended up being is that he said that he actually doesn't want to have an online ordering system because restaurant is so small that him and his wife are the only two people that are actually making those meals. And if he will start spending time looking at the online ordering system to check those online orders, then he would simply not have time to actually help his wife make those orders. And right now, they're actually taking all of those orders over the phone, and they're completely happy. And they have a loyal customer base that are just calling them, similarly to how we were doing this, because we love the place. And that was the moment when I realized that even though I've been saying all the time to myself and all the other PMs and obviously reading about it, that you have to be talking to your customers and you don't need to make any assumptions about their needs. Here I was sitting in front of a customer, just totally making an assumption about their needs and trying to convince them to use a system that they didn't need. So that was kind of a really big learning experience for me, and kind of just another reminder that even when you think that you know what the best solution for your customers are, most likely you don't. So don't be like me in that situation, and know that you most likely, or 100% actually, have to be talking to your customers to understand what their true needs are. All right, so we kind of talked about those customer insights. So let's say after this phase or the step, you will have a list of 10 to 15 customer problems that you would like to solve. And you talk to all of those cross-functional teams, you validated that those needs are the real ones. So what do you do next? You obviously then looking at those ideas have to start solutioning. This is a step where you can actually be really strategic about which problems need to be solved. And especially right now when things are so undefined and so rapidly changing, you need to look at those problems that you got from your customers and think really critically which of them are actually aligned with your company mission, vision, and values, and are they actually aligned? Because maybe some folks have changed what they actually want to do, and there is no longer a need of your specific product, or maybe the need that they have is actually not aligned with company mission and vision. So this is a step where you can actually show your strategic thinking to the rest of the org when you not try to come up with the next new feature that you just want to add to the roadmap. You actually try to think strategically and critically about the needs. Let's pretend that you actually been lucky and all of the ideas that you heard from your customers are still aligned with company mission and vision. So now what you actually need to do is you have to look at long-term and short-term goals that you have for your product. And this is an area where most likely there might be some changes. Maybe some of the goals that you had before, especially if you had some tactical goals, are not relevant anymore. And this is kind of where you can look at those needs and come up with a couple of solutions or a couple of goals that might need to change. And then lastly, what you actually do need to do is, especially if you will be offering and suggesting something completely different, you have to be truly agile in your thinking, because most companies, especially again right now, will be really afraid to make really dramatic pivots. So you have to find those really small ideas that are basically risk-free for the company to try on. And obviously, all of this is known thing because we all know that you have to be agile and Scrum. But most of the time when I ask product managers how agile are you? So people say that they would typically deliver features maybe in a couple of sprints, maybe sometimes in a month or maybe a couple of months. And they think that they actually quite agile because they run those sprints and deliver something after. But I actually would like to challenge that even more. Again, back in March, when all of this happened, there was in e-commerce world, there was this community-driven initiative where a couple of e-commerce agencies around the world got together and decided that they would like to help those small retail businesses to go online or maybe help improve their online presence. And obviously, all of that would be for free, just for the sake of keeping retail going and make sure that none of those small businesses would be affected. So the service was called Offline to On, as I said, completely community-driven and free for all the merchants who would apply for help. Then we started talking with those agencies and asking them how much time can they actually allocate to help those merchants, because some e-commerce projects can be really long, like it can take months to develop a solution. So most of those partners said that they would be able to allocate for free about 10 hours of their development time. And obviously for all of us in kind of enterprise product management space, we thought that it's not enough time because there are not that many things that you can do in 10 hours. However, to our surprise, what we discovered that there were merchants who needed really small things. For example, there was a merchant who needed to have his phone number added to the website together with a banner that says that you can call us by this phone number and we would be able to do curbside pickup for any of the products that you want. So while they didn't have like a true kind of inventory management system to offer fully functioning curbside pickup, they just wanted to have this really small fix added to their website. They were not technical enough to be able to do it themselves, so that's why they needed help. So again, that was totally possible to do in those 10 hours of development time. There was another merchant who wanted to have a list of his physical stores listed on his website, so then people would know that he actually has those online stores just because he actually never had it on his website. And again, that was possible to do in 10 hours. As product managers, obviously, you can think of those are not significant ideas, but at the same time, they actually did deliver a quite significant value to those merchants. And if you are working on a platform, maybe there's a way to actually automate that type of functionality. So merchants or customers that are not tech savvy can actually go and add their phone number or a banner or maybe a list of physical locations that they have without asking for help. So I would say that if we're typically talking about a sprint of development time with a team of a couple of engineers on it, is definitely more than those 10 hours of engineering time. So I would say that when you're thinking about solutions and you're thinking about offering something to within your company to show that you have done your strategic thinking, think of those really small steps that will be really small, can deliver high value, and will be pretty much risk-free for your company. Obviously, list out what kind of results you would like to get from it, so then you can validate your hypotheses and make sure that that small feature is just the beginning of something bigger. And lastly, now you obviously have the list of those problems, you came up with those solutions, and you also have those incremental steps that are truly small. Now we're actually getting to probably the most important step that you have to do in order to have that visibility within the company. So you've done all of this hard work, you have all of those insights, all of that work to some extent not that visible, but the most important work at the same time. So now what you need to do, you need to elevate all of those insights and make sure that the right people heard them. In different companies, so those will be the right people. So depending on your position within the company and depending on the size of the company and the structure, you might have chief product officer, maybe you actually do directly report to CEO. So you kind of need to understand who are the right people that do need to hear those insights from you, and who are those people that truly care about the right features or the right impact for the company right now. From there, you also don't need to be alone when you actually go in and pitch in this idea. Since you've done a lot of cross-functional collaboration at the beginning, you actually do need to have those supporters on your side. You can say that, for example, taking my example of adding the phone number to the website, maybe what you discovered that there was this merchant who had a need to have the phone number of their website, and because there was no obvious way to do it really easy, there were a lot of support phone calls. So you can actually have people from customer support backing up your idea. And again, that shows really big collaboration on your side, and also helps everybody else see how collaborative you are. And it's not about just being introverted or extroverted. Just because you already have something in common with those people, it's really easy for you to be able to kind of join forces with others. And then lastly, you also need to find the right medium and the right cadence for those conversations. You probably don't want to be sending kind of those ideas all the time and kind of just looking at or being seen as the person who always has some small idea. You kind of need to understand what is the preferred way of doing this type of collaboration within your company. Some companies that I spoke to, they started doing things like product roadmap updates where they share everything that has been done, as well as the new ideas that they added. They also obviously pushed lots of communications into the Slack and emails, but I would say that most of the time you would also need to add another session or another forum where you would be able to discuss with everybody else who is involved those new ideas that come up and be able to adjust your product roadmap really quickly. For example, at BigCommerce, where I currently work, we do have a session where our product leadership team gets together, and all the product managers, as well as actually all the other people, are welcome to come in and share what are the insights that they learn from basically going through this process. And then we would look at what are those ideas and how would we stack rank them against everything else that we have in the product roadmap. That does allow us to actually be really fast in decision-making process, because we would make decisions immediately after that meeting where we would first hear this idea. And then also it allows all of the other PMs to actually have that forum where they can share those ideas. So it also helps us see how other PMs are doing and how critically they are thinking about their needs. So definitely think of something like that if you don't have it in your company yet. And I actually would like to end saying that obviously right now we live in this really challenging world, and a lot of businesses around the world and a lot of customers of all of the products that we have been impacted. But as product managers, it actually opens a great opportunity for us to think strategically about the new ways to solve those problems that those customers have. So you have to remember that all great changes are preceded by chaos, and it's definitely where we are right now. So take this opportunity and apply your critical thinking in order to succeed in your company. And as long as you actually share those ideas and have the right ideas, the success will follow. So that's actually it from me. I would be happy to hear any questions that you might have, but most importantly, if you have any insights on how you been trying to do something like that within your company, or how you are trying to be successful and visible. Would love to hear that. So please feel free.
Yeah, thanks, Elena. Good presentation. Yeah, if anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask a question or offer any ideas, that'd be great. You know, I do like the idea. Your approach was to consider your career as a product and to approach it as a product that you're managing. One of the many products you're managing is your own career, your own reputation. yeah, just thinking about things that way. That I think that's very useful. That's something we should probably be doing even before COVID or and after COVID.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I do see that there is a question in Slack. Have you found it easier or harder to go get the voice of customer in this virtual world? This is actually a really good question. And so there are two aspects to my answer. So I think for at least for us, it was pretty much about the same to get the insights from customers. But what we actually discovered that because everybody has moved in this virtual world and everybody takes those calls from their homes, the level of communication and the openness of people to share some of these insights actually has increased so much. So for example, we had a couple of clients that were relatively difficult. Like every time our team would be really nervous to go talk to them because they had all of those asks that it was really hard to deliver. And I think we all are in that situation sometimes. But when we saw that customer at their home, they had all kinds of board games, and somebody was able to relate to that and say, oh my God, like you actually have those board games and I love to play board games as well. So it kind of opened up those conversations. It gave this personal touch that we were lacking before. And as a result, those conversations became much easier, and we actually been able to learn more insights than we been able to before. So I would say that is something that I actually truly enjoy about the situation, given that we are all in it. There's another question. What are your thoughts on communicating early stage ideas that might not be fully fleshed out in terms of ROI or metrics versus idea that have fully baked business case? Um, I actually personally think that obviously all the ideas go through stages. Sometimes you just have you just heard the need, then you go into the early stage idea. From there you actually go into the fully baked idea, and then eventually it becomes a product roadmap item, feature that the teams are working on. I would say that I personally see a lot of value of discussing those early on ideas early on, because you actually like maybe you've heard part of the story, but then some other product manager in his own research might have heard something else. So then together you can actually make those ideas better. Or maybe again, as I said, you actually go and talk to those other teams within your org, and you don't like you don't go there and just say that we already added this feature on the roadmap and people say, oh my God, yeah, thank you, and you're done with it. You actually take those early on ideas and you go and talk to sales and tell them, I'm considering this idea, what do you think? Have you heard something like that? Or people don't need that. And you're not looking for yes and no answer. You kind of need to understand what specifically have they heard and can they connect you to those customers if you have time, and if those customers are willing to talk to you. So I would say that, I know, definitely feel free to discuss those ideas, but at the same time indicate that those are the things that you're considering, because I think another aspect that sometimes for in product management world, it's not as clear when the idea is early on and versus fully fleshed out. So then people get confused and they think that like product manager hasn't done a good job. So as long as you actually make it really clear and say that this is the thing that I'm considering based on those insights that I've heard, and I would like just to get everybody else's ideas or support on it, then that actually will be a huge plus for you.
yeah. Well, when you're working in a physical office, personally, the early stage stuff where you're just fleshing out the idea, I mean, I feel more comfortable just popping by the person's office or cubicle or whatever, and just so then that way they know it's a casual thing. It's not fleshed
Mhm.
out at all, and that's of course not possible now. So for something like that, where it's really early stage, you don't have a business case or anything. Now, do you think you communicate with them by text message, by email, by phone call? What's personally
Um,
your
Yeah, so I think like it depends on your preference, obviously, but there's always obviously more value in in-person communications than just messages. However, any communication is better than nothing. So I would just say that obviously you have to make sure that your ideas are being heard, and you are open for other insights. Um, I personally would prefer to go and actually talk to somebody informally. And by going, I mean scheduling a call for maybe 10 to 15 minutes. But I first send them a Slack message saying that I've heard this. Do you actually have time to chat about it? And so then that way person knows what to talk about.
Well, that's the thing. You said scheduling a call. I think that might provide some resistance. If they're just sitting in their office and I pop by, you
Yeah.
know it's only going to be a minute or two, and which is probably all I need. If I send them please schedule a Zoom meeting, they may be more resistant to that. That's one of my concerns. It's one of the things we're not.
Yeah, yeah, I would say that obviously like that is a concern, and obviously people have this tendency to schedule time for like 30 minutes at minimum, and then they feel obligated to take all 30 minutes. So like the way I typically do it, I know just sharing my personal insights is that I would Slack somebody, say that I would like to discuss this idea, and we do at BigCommerce we obviously have. Video conferencing that we use for official meetings, but then in Slack there is this option to call somebody. And so we just talk and like, oh, do you have a couple of minutes to chat about this? And that's kind of where we would jump on a call and to just talk for 5 minutes, and that's it. So that's kind of how I personally do it. But again, different people do it different ways. But that was something that worked for me because I feel exactly the same about those meetings, especially the 30 minutes time slots that take the whole day.
Yeah. Oh, Kathy, I thought you were going to ask something, but does anybody else have any ideas of what's working for you in this new world, or what's not working?
Yeah, I actually would love to hear from you guys. What are the things that you have tried and what didn't work, or maybe what is working?
Come on, I know we're all working remotely, so I know somebody's got something out there.
Yeah, hey, so this is Tim. So what works? Like scheduling one-on-ones and just funny type meeting titles, those are great. Actually, ad hoc team meetings, like if there's a group of folks that you want to get a hold of, schedule like a monthly coffee time, people drop in and out, it's great.
Yeah, if they understand it's a drop in and out thing. I think it depends on the culture of your company. I think a lot of times people don't understand it, or if you say they're going to expect you're going to be there for a half hour, and you don't want them for a half hour. And I don't know.
Yeah, that's actually a good one. So also we kind of do in that meeting that I shared with you that we do at BigCommerce, we kind of also allow everybody to jump in if they have something to say, but if they don't, they are not required to come there. So like we're not expecting everybody to always come to this meeting, and we don't want to create the culture where it's expected of you to have an idea, and if you don't have an idea this time, you kind of already feel like you haven't done something. Like
Right.
ideas don't come on demand, so you kind of need to truly allow creativity.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's gonna be tough. Hey, do you think after the pandemic, I mean, a lot of people are still going to want to work at home, and a lot of things going to be different after the pandemic. I mean, we'll go back to the office, but we won't go totally back to the office. There's still going to be a lot of work at home, and so I think as a society, we need to learn how to navigate this new world. And a lot of the issues you've mentioned here, I think, are going to be things we're all going to have to think about. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's totally the case because things are going to be different. So that's why knowing how to balance your virtual and in-person communications will be really important, especially for high visibility jobs as product management. So the more you can practice and come up with your own ways right now, the better I think it would be.